Okay, here we go. This is my first video. Welcome, hi, I'm a newbie. I'm going to talk to you about books today. And I'm just going to jump straight in. I'm going to be talking about my lowest and highest rated books of 2023 to hopefully give you some inspiration for your 2024 TBR, what to add and maybe what not to add. First, let me take you through my ranking system because I feel like everybody ranks a little bit differently. It's funny talking to a camera. Okay, the way that I rank my books, I always start with 2.5. So 2.5 is half of 5, right? So this for me is an average book. This is, I didn't love it, I didn't hate it. It's a book, I read it, I didn't hate it. That's essentially what a 2.5 is for me, and that's always my starting point. That's always kind of what I sort of measure a book against. So then anything below a 2.5 is essentially my lowest rated books. A 3 is I really liked it, it's very cute, it did what it said on the tin, like I'm a fan, but it's not my fave. A 4 is obviously I absolutely adored it, it's so good. And a 5 is top tier, creme de la creme, can't get any better, literally one of my favourite books of all time. Bearing that in mind, I'm going to talk about my lowest and highest rated. So essentially, lowest being anything below a 2.5 and highest being 4.5. The first book I rated below a 2.5 in 2023 was My Cousin Rachel by Daphne du Maurier. I don't have the physical copy. I was really surprised by this. I really love Daphne du Maurier's writing. Rebecca is like one of my favourite books. I've read it about 3 times. Parasites was the first book that I read by them and fell in love with their writing from that book. So at the start of 2023 I was on a bit of a Daphne du Maurier kick and I read My Cousin Rachel and I honestly, I just didn't connect. I think I had really high expectations going into it and I had Rebecca in my head and it just wasn't Rebecca. It's a classic mystery thriller vibe. It's about this guy called Ambrose who goes abroad, meets his cousin Rachel and falls in love with her, and she comes back and causes some chaos. I don't fully remember the ins and outs of the story, to be honest, but it was still very much Daphne du Maurier's writing, but it just kind of felt slow and it didn't intrigue me as much as the other books that I've read by her. So that was the first book that I rated below a 2.5 in 2023, and it was a surprise for me. Heaven by Mieko Kawakami. I have delved into a little bit of translated Japanese literature. I've read Before the Coffee Goes Cold and another book that I can't remember right now, and Heaven. And I do think it's an acquired taste, and I feel like the people that love it, and I just can't, I don't know what it is, I just can't really connect to it. I've not really enjoyed any of the Japanese literature that I've read. You know, I know people like Jack Edwards and Sophie Floyd, they love Japanese literature, like Before the Coffee Goes Cold. And don't get me wrong, the stories are usually super cool concepts for books, and analysis of human behaviour is really interesting and there's a lot of nuance to it, but as a reading experience I gave this book 2 stars. I think first of all I'm not very good at reading about traumatic sad things anyway, and this book is about bullying in secondary school, so I think straight away I kind of knew it was going to be a push for me. Also, I think because it's about people in secondary school, I feel like I just can't really connect. I feel too old. But I thought I would give it a go. It's really short, but yeah, unfortunately it wasn't really my cup of tea. But if you're into Japanese literature, you probably will enjoy this. So this one's actually kind of fun. Even though it's in my lowest rated, it is kind of fun. When it came to October and autumn, I was just feeling the autumn vibes. I just really wanted to sit down with a cup of tea and a book and a blanket and just have a jolly old time. And I did with this book. You just want the vibes. Then this isn't too bad. But the actual story and the book itself, I just couldn't rate higher than a 2.25. Here, The Pumpkin Spice Cafe. How cute. And it wraps all the way around and you can see the little cat. I actually really enjoyed Like, just picture me just having the best time. It is a really cute book, and if you're just after a super simple romance book, it's grumpy sunshine trope, then it won't hurt you to read this. You're not that big of a fan of the grumpy sunshine trope. That's why it got a 2.25 from me. To be honest, I find that trope really annoying. Like, the man is super grumpy, and then the woman's like really cute and chirpy, and she's like, ah, but I like you anyway. Why though? It was cute. Would I recommend it? Like, kind of, but if you're into it, go for it. Gilmore Girls, it's the season to fall in love. Then, yeah, give it a go. This one's gonna rattle some people. The next two are probably gonna rattle some people. But the next book is A Court of Frost and Starlight, which is from the ACOTAR series. It's the novella. It's like the 4th book, the mini. It's like a 3.5 book because it's like, it's number 4. It's number 4 in the ACOTAR series. I don't have A Court of Frost and Starlight with me. I read it on my Kindle. 2023 was the year that I delved into the ACOTAR series. Very hyped series that I wanted to give a go. I wanted to see what all the fuss was about. And I have mixed feelings. Just bear with me. I read the first one, and I think most people honestly find the first one a little bit underwhelming. I'll be honest. Like, the second half of the book is banging, but the first half is very slow. You're not really sure, like, okay, what am I getting myself into here? This is like a 5-book series. I think I rated the first one like a 2.5. Second one, I'm an Akamov girly. I am an Akamov girly, and I will be talking about that in my highest rated. And Aka War, so A Court of War and Ruin, or Wings and Ruin, I enjoyed. I think it was like a 3-star for me. But Court of Frost and Starlight, so people describe this book as like the Christmas edition of their favourite series. I get it. It was cute, it was small, it was like very Christmas vibes, it had the romance, it had cutesy, but to be honest, I just wanted the plot. Give me the plot. I wanted to get to book 5, I needed the plot, I needed to know what was going on, I didn't need this like strange interlude. I honestly didn't really enjoy it. I only read it to get to the 5th book. If you're going to read the ACOTAR series, read it for Akamov, the 2nd book. Please. Final book I'm going to talk about in my lowest rated is also going to rattle people, Divine Rivals. I'm sorry. I am actually sorry, because I was super excited to read this book. I don't have like the copy of it. I was super excited. I was hearing about it everywhere. But I think it's because it's a YA. And I don't think I can read YA. I think I've come to the conclusion that I'm too old, or I don't know, maybe not. Maybe it's just, I don't know, I feel like I can't connect to the characters because they're so much younger than me. Like, it's just not my demographic, you know? The pacing was also a little bit strange in this book, so I found the first half to feel really long and sort of like disjointed to the second half, which I kind of feel like was meant to be the main half, but that felt super rushed. So yeah, overall, if I'm being super honest, I just was kind of wanting it to be over while I was reading it, which I feel terrible saying. But if you enjoyed that book, then I think the second one, Ruthless Vows or something, is out. So yeah, go for it. But I don't think I'll be reading the second one. Okay, everybody, we're on to the best bit. We can talk about the books that I loved in 2023. These are my recommendations to add to your 2024 reading list if you haven't already read them or if you haven't already added them. These were my top tier books. Oh, I should also add, I read 30 books in 2023. So last year was the first year that I got really back into reading as a hobby. So for me, 30 is quite a lot. I know for some people that's not very much at all. It's kind of my first year back into the realm of reading for fun. I studied English as a degree. I had to read constantly, not for fun. So I kind of needed a break from the reading. But now we're back, honey, we are back. The first book I'm going to talk about is right at the bottom of the pile. Love that for me. I'm scared. Let me preface this with, last year, for the first 6 months, to be honest, I was still in my non-fiction, honestly self-help books era, and then in the second half of the year I finally started reading fiction again, and thank God I did. I absolutely love it now. But yeah, I was still reading non-fiction more at the start of last year, and the first book that I actually read, I think altogether last year, I gave a 4-star, and that's Untamed by Glennon Doyle. Now, okay, if you're not into this kind of book, you're not going to like it. For me, I think I enjoyed the way that she spoke about her real life experiences. I feel like she was super honest, super vulnerable, and I enjoyed her writing. It didn't feel preachy. It just felt like a very, like honest depiction of what she was talking about. Stop pleasing, start living. She was married, I believe, to a man and had children, and then she met a woman who she instantly fell in love with, and she decided to let go of the world's expectations of her and reclaim her true untamed self. And it's basically about her journey of realising what she actually wanted, who she actually wanted, and sort of not caring, but just taking her life into her own hands and becoming untamed. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's a really well written book and I flew through it. Yeah, if you're into this, give it a go. I'm very excited to talk about this book. I absolutely loved this book. Sunset. Take it in. Take it in. It's a beautiful book. I love the colours. I love Jessie Cave. I love her writing. I love this book. 5 stars. I love this book. It's just, first of all, the cover just makes me happy, even though this book is literally about grief. The best depiction of grief that I've ever read. I think it's so honest. It's so vulnerable. The character is so real, and I cried, like I wept. It's really, really good. I highly recommend it. It's entertaining, but it's also super like deep and dark and heart-wrenching. It's all about like relationships, family relationships, the relationship you have with yourself. Hannah is radiant, organised and hardworking. Ruth is forever single and totally aimless. Together they are invincible. Every summer they go on a budget holiday together where they bicker, laugh, fight and make up. But this time it's different. Something bad happens and now everything is changed forever. Then I highly recommend this book. It's beautiful. Tabbed 1 page, which is quite interesting. I really enjoyed the way that she described things as beautiful, but then also had the kind of grimy side of life involved as well. And it reminded me the other day, because I watched an interview with the director of Saltburn. If you haven't watched Saltburn, watch it. She was talking about how she wanted it to feel like, when in every shot, capture the beauty of this like crazy building, this beautiful space, but have the reality of life in the background. So like a crushed Coke can, an IKEA lamp, Colgate toothpaste. And I feel like this book kind of has that vibe. It's like beautiful literature, but there's the everyday, and it's the kind of grime, it's the shit parts involved as well. So yes, very interesting. Right, the next book that is highly rated from last year was The Defining Decade, and it's about people in their 20s, and it's essentially like I think it's a book from a therapist's perspective, talking about the different people that they've spoken to who are in their 20s, and kind of like saying, okay, you're all basically experiencing the same thing, and here's what I've learned from that to give to you. And I genuinely really enjoyed it. I gave it 4.5 stars. It was a really non-preachy, realistic approach to self-help in your 20s, and I think because it's written by somebody who's like a therapist, I believe, who has real life experience of talking to people in their 20s who have all basically gone to them with the same issues, this feeling of like, what it talks about is how our generation doesn't really know how to commit to something because there's so many options out there. We kind of feel like we're in this like abyss, this big ocean, and we don't really have anything to like anchor down on. And so people get overwhelmed by these options. They don't know whether they should be travelling, whether they should be married, whether they should have a corporate job or freelance or blah, 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 blah. And people get really overwhelmed. And they start to feel really like down about it. And this book was basically saying, I believe, this is what I took from it, was if you just make a choice and you commit to it, either way you're going to learn something, you're going to gain something, and something's going to happen. But if you don't make any decisions, then you're always going to be stuck in this place of not doing anything because you just can't decide on something. And it was just a really interesting and really well thought out way of helping people who are feeling lost in that decade of the 20s, you know, with all the pressure that comes with that. And I felt seen. It's a good one. If that's what you're needing, it's a hand to hold for sure. And I'll definitely be dipping back into it through the second half of my 20s. Fun. So, where's it gone? Oh, here. The Song of Achilles. Now, everyone and their dog has read this, so add it to your reading list, please, if you haven't already. I cried. Oh my god, yeah. Oh my god, yeah, the ending. I cried. I gave it 4.5. It wasn't quite a 5-star read because, I don't want to say it, the writing seemed a little bit simple. Just a little bit. But the overall plot, the overall feeling that this book gave me, dead. Read it. Very good. It's a Greek retelling. You don't need to be into that to read it, if you know what I mean. It's like a story in its own right. Highly recommended. Okay, this one. The good shit. Tomorrow ×3 by Gabrielle Zevin. I read this on holiday and literally the pages fell out because the glue melted. The glue melted. It was everything you want from a story, like a true fiction book. Here's a story that spans years of somebody's life. Here's all the relationships between the friends and the not so friends, and it's about a group of friends that make a video game, which is the premise of the novel, but it's honestly more about like the relationships, what they go through in their life, the turbulence, everything that comes with like becoming famous from something. And it kind of gave me, from the writing, like Taylor Jenkins Reid vibes. If you've read Daisy Jones and the Six or Evelyn Hugo, Seven Husbands of Evelyn. It's annoying. Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Last year was the year that I read Emily Henry, finally, and this was the first Emily Henry book that I read, and I fell in love. From literally the first page, I was giggling, kicking my feet, crying, laughing, throwing up. I loved it so, so much. And what's really interesting is listening to other people's reviews of Emily Henry books. I feel like for them it goes beach read, happy place, or Book Lovers is usually like still really highly rated, but like the bottom of their list. Whereas for me, Book Lovers is the top tier book of Emily Henry. And I don't know if it's because it's the first one that I read by her, but I just really, really enjoyed it. Like the main woman is the MFC, is a legend. Did I say MFC? The FMC. I just love them both, and I loved all the characters involved. And it's sort of small town. I believe it's enemies to lovers, and it's just really great rom-com writing, romance writing. It's funny, it's witty, it's really, really good. If you haven't read Emily Henry, I would just honestly recommend any of her books. But yes, this is my favourite. And then to kind of go straight into this, Happy Place. I bought this in Sainsbury's. I saw it and I thought, I'm probably going to like it. I really liked Book Lovers, and I was right. I gave this one a 4.5. Really great depiction of relationships in your, like, I think that maybe older 20s or 30s. It was really nice actually reading about a friendship group older than me, because then it makes me think that the plot doesn't end at 25. It was refreshing to read about a little bit older characters and their relationships and how they've navigated their 20s and their early 20s. The friendship group, the found family, the relationship. It's a great novel for a summer read. Okay, this is my favourite book of 2023. I'm putting it out there. It's a big statement, I realise this. How beautiful is this book? Milk Teeth by Jessica Andrews. 5 stars. 5 stars. I loved this book so much and I want to read everything she's ever written, genuinely. I think she has a book called Saltwater, but at the moment the only thing I can think of Saltwater is Jacob Elordi's Candle. Honestly, one of the most beautiful books I've ever read. The description is insane. It's like a sensory journey through this whole book. She describes everything with such richness and it feels sweaty and steamy, not in steamy in like a sexy way, but like it feels hot. It feels like this, like rich and like, oh, it's like I'm enveloped in the world. Bananas rot in the fruit bowl and we bake them into warm bread. Vanilla and sex caught beneath our fingernails. I drink it all in, desperate to remember the precise flavour of you, like smoke and licorice, before you are gone and your edges begin to blur in my memory, losing their definition. I think it's the most realistic, vulnerable, honest depiction of a woman going through it, or just even a normal brain of a woman who's just like feeling anxious about their relationships and what they're doing with their life and about themselves and their place in the world and figuring it all out. And I felt seen by this book. Like the woman's voice in her head is like so realistic. She just is trying to find her place. She's trying to figure out what to do with herself, what to do with her like love life, her career, and she's just trying to find her place, and it's really honestly quite brilliant. Recommend it highly. Now it's the Achamoth. It's Achamoth's turn. I'm going to talk about A Court of Mist and Fury now. It's the second book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series and it's life-changing. Changed my life, loved every second. The romance, the plot, the characters. I felt so connected to the characters. Like I felt like I know them and I want the best for them, and I felt so sad when that book was over because I knew that every other book kind of wasn't going to be the same in that sense. Don't want to give anything away. It's like just the right amount of spice. I think the 5th one for me, A Court of Silver Flames, was a little bit too much spice. Just a little bit. Just a touch too much spice. This one was perfect. The romance was, the plot was, the action was so good. It was just a really, really good book. If you're really into like romantasy, I do recommend the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. The second one is my favourite. This one's funny. This one's hilarious. I read a Christmas book called Snowed In by Catherine Walsh. And I rated it 4 stars. That's hilarious. 4 stars for a Christmas book. I swear Christmas books are just like for the vibes. They're like 2-3 stars, it was cute, for the vibes. 4 stars, like a genuinely good book. I really, really enjoyed this. I don't remember who recommended this on YouTube, but I took that recommendation because I was looking for a Christmas book and I didn't really know where to start with what to read. I'll put it down who recommended it, but I really enjoyed this. It's fake dating, forced proximity, it says it on the front. A completely hilarious fake dating, forced proximity romantic comedy. And that's exactly what it is, and it's done very well. And it's in Dublin, I believe, and the guy is brilliant, the girl is brilliant. I think I cried. Like, honestly, I would read this outside of Christmas, but if you're looking for a Christmas book at the end of this year, read this one. Finally, the final book. 7 Years Slip. If you can't tell, I love this book. I think I gave it 5 stars. I picked this up in October because I thought it was giving like autumnness, and for some reason I started reading it and I just thought, it's not for me, I don't think it's for me. Boy, was I wrong. I read this in like a day. It's like a neat package. Themes that carry all the way through, the descriptions that are like cyclical and they keep coming back, and you feel like you've been in their world for years, and something that was said at the beginning will come back around and it will all like tie together and you'll be like, oh my god. The quotes in this book, the writing is stunning, the relationship is so well written. It's magic realism at its best because like the magic part isn't like the point, like it's the plot, it's what creates the plot, but it's not the point. Does that make sense? It's about a woman whose apartment takes her 7 years back in time, and she meets a man in that 7 years back in time, which sort of creates this conflict because obviously it's 7 years back in time. But it's just the characters. Clementine, I love you. The man, I love you, I can't remember his name. Yeah, if you're into like a romance, comedy, a very well written one with great quotes, I think I want to find one. It's in the publishing industry as well, so it's nice for book lovers who enjoy reading about like the process of that too. Like Book Lovers is about people that work in the publishing industry as well. Oh, and I loved him. He was so cute. Like their relationship is actually adorable. And it was like very crisp. Like the writing was so crisp, you know? My aunt used to say, if you don't fit in, fool everyone until you do. She also said to keep your passport renewed, to pair red wines with meats and whites with everything else, to find work that is fulfilling to your heart as well as your head, to never forget to fall in love whenever you can find it, because love is nothing if not a matter of timing, and to chase the moon. Always, always chase the moon. I want to read it all over again. I loved it. That's all the books that I'm going to talk about in today's video. My highest and lowest rated of 2023. And hopefully it gave you some inspiration for your 2024 reading list. This was fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. If you want me to do any like videos in particular, let me know. If you have any ideas for me, shout them out. Whatever the teacher used to say. I really enjoyed this. I love reading, I love books, and I just wanted to be part of a community that also loves the same thing that I do, so I can talk about it with you. So yeah, thank you so much guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!